Thank you. That was going to be my next request for the recording because let's kick it off. And Joy, would you like to just do a roll call down for us?
Yes, I can do that. Good morning, everyone. It's really great to have you here. I'm going to do a quick roll call, and if you're present, you can just go off mute and say present, or you can raise your hands. So the first on the list for today is Zan Odero, Sarah Collins, Sam Coe,
I'm here.
thank you, Sam, Kim Lay,
I'm here.
thanks, Kim, Andy Leonard, Tabitha Lewis, Adrian Livingston, Deborah Martin,
I'm here.
thank you, Christina McMahon, Maricela Ortega, Molly Rogers,
I am here.
thanks, Molly. And last we have Kiwi Wilson. All right, I'll pass it back to you, Molly.
All righty, thank you. We're going to kick it off first with our two action items that will be on the Youth Development Council agenda on the 12th. And our first is our Josephine County 30-day detention recertification. And Anya, would you like to start off on the conversation with this?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Molly. Good morning, everyone. Joy, I was wondering if you don't mind sharing the screen. So I put together a couple of, well, fairly, I don't know if they're concise, but I try to keep them short. Summaries of the application for 30-day extended detention review. So one is Josephine County, it's here. So I'll just very briefly give my hopefully quick overview, and then we'll be happy to have a discussion if you would. So they submitted the application on the 26th. So application review team, and if I'm missing somebody, please remind me. That would not be intentional. So Molly, Sam, and I, Sam provided his feedback in writing. Yes, you did. You didn't go on site, but you did. You did send your email, and we got some responses while we're on site there. Kim, I don't think you gave any feedback to Josephine County, did you?
I'm not on the Josephine County committee,
Okay.
to my knowledge.
Appreciate. So this way, I think then it's correct. So the site visit was conducted on October 30th, and Molly and I went in person. Sam was not able, but he sent his feedback in writing. So this is just a basic overview of the program, and Molly and I were inside, and Molly, please feel free to, or rather, I would love for you to share your impressions, so you can read it all. And we will. Joy, is that okay if we could put a copy of this in the chat so people can see it whenever they have an opportunity later?
All right, I'll put in a copy.
So that was quite impressive. They had a lot of swag, right, Molly? We didn't take anything out, but this GOAL program is actually a pretty catchy name, and it stands for Growth, Obstacles, Adversity, and Learning. That was very exciting actually meeting. We met with the detention manager and a couple of staff, including one of the staff who is dedicated to work with youth in the extended detention program, and she just transitioned into that role from, hi Christina, Christina is here, from actually being a transition specialist in her previous capacity. So it's kind of nice. So what was really good about the program, in my opinion, it seems to be doing well as far as the dedicated staff. The youth who refer to the program fit the profile that we would expect. And they have pretty good relationship with community partners, including the tribe. They seem to be doing well, or at least they even developed a new cultural assessment form that was not completed by the time we were there, but they said that they will share a copy with us once it's completed. So anyway, overall, my impression was very positive. Sam, did they meet the education expectation? He shows his finger, thumb up. Molly, do you want to say a few words?
I do. So there were a couple pieces that were really they met, my recommendation is they met minimum to ROARs. So that was clearly there. I think what was exciting is that they really went above and beyond in many areas. And specifically truly looking at the dedicated staff, which was great. And also really acknowledging the number of goals they could do in 30 days and where it really played into the right spot in the continuum of care. So they were very nice swag. But they also really seemed to develop and implement the developmental approach into the 30-day program.
Right, thank you, madam. By the swag, it means they have t-shirts so kids can wear and staff can wear and all kinds of really cool things. We didn't take any, but we're tempted, honestly.
No, they've really taken pride in it. I really appreciate
Yeah.
this and that it is meant to be therapeutic and cognitively work. It is not by any means designed to be punitive or a punishment.
Correct, that was my impression as well.
Yeah. And it's a small facility. It's not the smallest facility, but it is a small facility. And they talked about how, you know, they have some limitations with that, but how they use tools to overcome those limitations.
Right, I was also very impressed that since they're a small facility and they have limited resources within the facility or department itself, but they do work closely with community partners. And impressively, the transitioning back is also very key to this program and a big component of it.
They do luck out. Their primary focus, they'll take youth from other parts of the state, but their primary focus is Josephine County. And so I would entertain for Anya or I any questions that you might have. And then we can maybe move to making a recommendation for the council. Okay. The other comment that Anya has on her review that is unique so far in the ones that we've seen is really this notion of the crossover youth and the family engagement and acknowledging that.
I'm glad that you pointed it out. Yes. They seem to have a strong partnership with DHS, which
Yes.
is not, unfortunately, very common.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Is there any opposition to moving this forward with the recommendation? Yes, absolutely, Sam. The ODE JDEP funds helps tremendously with the reentry transition. And that, yes, I think that we have seen that in all three of our site visits we've done so far is the appreciation for the commitment to ODE's help. it has made a tremendous difference.
Definitely. Thank you, Sam, for your advocacy.
Yeah.
Would not have happened without you.
No, it's not on me, it's everybody. It's a group thing. Everyone helped
I'm
out.
sure, but I know you've been advocating for that for
Yep.
So, yeah.
since I think the day you came to Oregon.
I agree. Okay, hearing no opposition, we will move this one forward with a recommendation for the Youth Development Council to approve it.
Awesome. Thank you, Molly.
For the
Thank you.
record,
Yes.
Sam, just take all the sunshine you can get when it comes your way. We're going into the rainy season. And then for the record, I'm thumbs up on Josephine County as opposed to Sam. I think you said, Anya, he gave the finger. I'm giving a thumbs up.
Okay, that was a mistake. Remember, English is not my first language. I corrected myself quickly.
Great. Okay. Yamhill County. And so Anya and I and Lawrence and Kim and Sam, and it feels like there was one more of us. Maybe that was it.
No, it was a 5 of us. Let's see. So we have here Molly, Sam, Kim, Lawrence, and myself. Did I miss somebody?
No, you got it all. And we went down on Monday. So Anya, would you like to share kind of the history on Yamhill County?
Yeah, I will do a very quick overview, and then I would hope that you all be able to join me. So, the first impression of Yamhill County Detention Facility, since that was not our first visit there, but first visit after this application was submitted, it's changed quite a bit. So there's been some obvious progress towards adhering to developmental approach to youth development and services for youth, but there are still a few things that that we would like to discuss with you. The main thing is that they plan to use the extended detention program for youth as young as 10 and 11. And it seems young, and it doesn't seem that it would be in adherence with developmental approach, because if those of you who haven't been inside that facility, it's very small, and it does feel as a, well, it's a prison really for kids. It has this feel. So I don't know if having a 10-year-old there for 30 days would be very therapeutic for the child. Also, we had this discussion. The statute does not set the time or the age for extended detention programming, but we have never had an application that came to serve that young of a group of kids. So that's an observation that I have, and I would hope we could discuss it right now, because that's a concern.
That was, we haven't seen that in any of the other applications. So
No, not over the years, not since it's
Okay.
became.
Anya, did they give a sense of why they
Yes.
wanted that as a part of their program?
So they did, and unless I misunderstood, please help me here, those of you who were there. It just appeared that they don't seem to have a very strong partnership with child welfare, CHS, so they don't seem that there's an other option for a child to be in other than being put in detention, which in itself is it just doesn't seem right. It really doesn't. And I understand
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I
So
mean, it's just, I agree with the concerns, and there's just so many things that have to be present to get to that point. I mean, of course, the judge can allow an exception under 12 to be in detention. They hate to do it. They rarely ever want to even do it for a night, let alone 30 days.
Mhm.
And then you also have to back it up even more to even get to the judge to get to the exception. You're having to charge a 10 or an 11-year-old with a crime, which is also problematic because you can't even get to detention unless you get to the having a crime. And so I just, yeah, it kind of surprises me a little bit, to be quite honest. And I mean, I would not want to, I mean, I would not want that included in any kind of programming, just me, myself, and I just have a lot of concerns. I get the frustration that they're experiencing of feeling like they have youth that they can't serve well with other system partners. I understand the frustration. I can just speak from away. We get youth all the time that we wish the mental health system could serve better or the DD system could serve better. And we end up with them because those other systems don't have enough resources and we don't like it either. And this, I feel like, is just another example of that. And I feel like this is a correction to that, but not a good use of a 30-day program. I mean, I'm probably not saying anything that everybody else isn't already thinking as well.
Well, actually, it was interesting. It does not seem that the judge that they have is necessarily opposed to holding youth under the age of 12 in detention.
Wow.
And as we were there was a young youth there that had actually been there over 30 days on pre-adjudication detention, who was just turned 11, if I remember correctly, Kim and Anya and Sam. And that it definitely feels like they are getting pushed up against other systems saying they don't have services or placements. And so this might be a place where we can say that we can approve the extended detention with the limitation that it serves 12 years old and older. And I've thought a lot about this. I actually had a couple of phone calls too. Really, it's depending on how it's being funded, but it really is typically meant for youth to not end up in the Oregon Youth Authority, is what 30-day extended detention is typically used for.
Yeah.
And youth under the age of 12 cannot be committed to the Oregon Youth Authority.
Right.
And so
No judicial ability to waive
Right.
that requirement. So yeah.
and so that was kind of my thought process over the last couple of days was I think they're doing a lot of good work, and they definitely have come a long ways from what the old facility was in their approach. And I really appreciated Cliff's approach to coloring outside the lines. I think he used that quite a bit, as well as pivoting. But this is when it felt like they talked a lot about detention being used right now for DD services and truly behavioral kids. Yeah, he did. Sam, you're right. He definitely was smaller and younger. So anyway, that was kind of my thought on it, Debbie. So I appreciate yours. Others?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with everything that Debbie said, and I really feel for what goes on in our local communities and our local juvenile departments. I know firsthand in this county the pressure we have felt from partners who everyone is, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. We are all struggling with the resources we have and the dynamics that we have, especially that many that have been exasperated coming out of the pandemic and throughout the pandemic and still coming out of it. When people tell me it's over, I feel like we're going to be living with it and the ripple effect of it for years to come. So I have a tremendous amount of empathy for what counties and local communities are trying to do. I think this is Yamhill County is trying to respond to the community concerns. So like I said, I appreciate they're trying to be collaborative, but every single thing that Debbie said from a legal standpoint is absolutely right on the money. We as an association, the Juvenile Directors Association, 2 years ago put forward a bill to try to put a limit on the age. Our bill was you had to be 12 or older in order to even have a petition filed, because we felt like, even though we don't have a lot of these kids, there's been a growing number of kids in this age group that are starting to hit our system because of the pressures of the lack of resources across many different disciplines in our state. And so we, as an association of juvenile directors, put out a bill. It got killed. It didn't go out. It didn't get out of committee, but to limit even being able to file charges on young people under the age of 12. So we all know from research and best practice, and several of us went to a juvenile justice summit that was put on by the Oregon Juvenile Departments, Judicial Departments, Juvenile Delinquency Improvement Program earlier this month, that talked about brain development. And we all know that the research and best practice doesn't support putting 10 and 11-year-olds in detention, let alone having them be involved in our system. So as I said, I feel the pain of Yamhill County, because I know, frankly, the hell we've been put through in this county involving the younger kids, when we try to say, no, we can't do that. But basically doing this to a 10 or 11-year-old, in my opinion, is really setting them on a life path of not being successful and not having good lifelong outcomes, and not being set up to successfully transition to adulthood. So that would fly in the face of what this particular group is all about. So I can't, that would have to be removed, in my opinion, before we could allow this to be approved. So sorry, as I said, we couldn't get any traction on our under minimum age bill. And that wasn't about, we had legislators saying, we know this is a problem and we wish we didn't have to use detention, but unfortunately there's no other resource, and there are real victims out there. And that was a legitimate observation on their part. But what we didn't hear was anyone saying, yeah, it's a good idea to put 10 and 11-year-olds in detention. What we heard was, we don't want to put a bill in place when there aren't also, we don't want to put a law in place when there aren't also corresponding resources to meet the needs of that population. And everybody was pretty locked in about what was going on with Measure 110 and didn't want to set up another one of those dynamics. So it's a really complicated problem, but I think, based on what other people have said, and now you've heard what I've said, I just don't see how we could approve it in this form. If that's removed, then that's a different conversation. So anyway, thank you.
Debbie, before I go to you, I'm going to ask Kim her thoughts. She was up there on site with us.
To be honest, it was my first on-site visit. With any of besides where I'd been to Wasco County, I had been to Norcor, and I've been to a detention facility in Yolo County, which is in Northern California. For me, it was, I echo a lot of the previous sentiments. It was really, really small. And in addition to being really, really small, for me, it was very, very scary. I came home and I shared with my husband and children that I had been to a juvenile detention center, and was just kind of taken aback with how it just felt like it was in a basement. It seemed like a very scary place. And I had a hard time thinking about my child who just turned 11, if something were to happen, and she were to make a not well thought out decision, that she might be in there, and kind of the effect that it would have on her, particularly the chair, which I guess Molly and other folks have seen, but I found it a little terrifying. It was one of those like restraint chairs. So at the end of the visit, I did ask Molly, I said, hey, have we ever not approved a 30-day detention application? And I believe that the answer was no. Now, if there are ways to restrict or limit, I would very much be for that. I just think
Mm.
that setting, I don't know how it could be helpful to a child at 10, 11, honestly, even 12 years old. I feel like you need to be older to understand what's going on there. But that, again, I have very limited experience, and that's my initial gut response.
Thanks, Kim. And just for context, it was one of the really nice restraint chairs. And I think it was one of those visceral reactions, I think, even by me, who has not been around one for a long time. But it was because we eliminated ours. But yeah, it's kind of shocking to look at. Debbie.
Yeah, I just had a couple of last thoughts just as, you know, we're having the discussion, and one is, and looking at kind of their approach. It's a CBT basic approach, which I'm not sure how successful CBT is with 10 and 11. It seems like that may not be the target population for a lot of those curriculum at that age. I'd be curious, maybe some of them are, I don't know. And then the other thing that I know that we have conversations at OYA about, as we've had to kind of adjust to having more youth with complex mental health issues in our system, in our facilities, is we are always a little bit aware of the kind of concept of, if you build it, they will come. And not being seen as like, oh, great, now OA has all these great mental health services and a specific mental health unit, and let's just send our mental health youth kids to OYA. Like, that is not how we want to be seen. And I just, and again, I understand completely the frustration they're experiencing, and they're just trying to serve these kids in some way. But I kind of, I'm also a little concerned if, like, oh, if it's to accommodate the lack of services from other agencies that maybe should be taking the lead, are they going to feel less, I don't know, not pressure, but less impetus to kind of actually build some additional programming if juvenile justice is kind of giving them an out to do something with them more easily? So I just think it's just something in the discussion. Yeah.
I think that's really spot on of that piece. Lawrence, you joined us.
Yes, I was there as well, and I echo a lot of the sentiments being spoken today. That was my first time in Yamhill County juvenile center, and it was very small. The accommodations just seemed a little tight, even for 12-year-olds. But for a 10 or 11-year-old, I'm just looking at my children when they were that age. I can remember when I was that age, and how different I was from 10 to 12, from 12 to 14. So the impact in that environment, I think, would have a negative impact on someone that young. So I'm not in favor of approving without having some further justification or explanation, or just removal of that stipulation. And that's just my opinion.
So Anya, I'm hearing from definitely the people that were there, and also from others who are experts in the area of adolescent brain development, that we can need to communicate back with Yamhill County and ask if they would be willing to remove that particular portion of their application. And if they were willing to remove that particular caveat in their application, then I think I would feel much more comfortable recommending to approve. Again, having been around a long time, they have come a long way in their work in Yamhill County, and they talk about how small it is. And it's bricks and mortar, so it's very difficult to just expand bricks and mortar. But their teacher was incredibly engaged. And I just want to really bring up strengths also in the program. It is a renewal application, Debbie. It's not a new 30-day program. And so, Anya, do you feel comfortable reaching out to Cliff and just letting him know that this is where the committee is at, and we could, Sam, go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't find my raise hand button. Okay, okay, so a couple of things. One, the thing about the physical building is only Yamhill and Jackson County, their detention facility resides on a second floor. So that's why they don't have as much real estate compared to like Josephine County and whatever. So they're very limited. That's why we have to go up and down the stairs. So, but then Jackson County, their building is large, so that's part of it. One, as Molly said, they have really come a long way. Even from Scott and with Cliff, like where he even mentioned like the uniforms are no longer all black. Back in the day, Yamhill required our teachers to also wear the same uniform or clothing as the line staff. They had to wear steel toe shoes, had to have the thick belt and all that kind of stuff. So it's gone a long way with now the teacher doesn't have to wear the line staff uniform, but then she chose to wear the Yamhill County Juvenile vest with their logo, which they changed the logo from like a sheriff's badge thingy to something else. So they've come a long way, and I agree with everybody. If for extended 30-day, let's not allow them to go 11 and under. But then in my years of doing this, the youngest I've seen in JDIP is a second grader. And that was, and I talked with, it was in, I don't want to mention the county, but yeah, so that was really bad, a second grader at that county. But then when I talked to the juvenile director, that youth had lunch at a police officer with a knife. And then so forth. So that's why. So we don't know what this 10-year-old kid did, but then when Cliff said what he was doing outside perhaps necessitated it, but then inside he's doing a lot better, so yeah, so we don't, I'm just saying that's my thing.
I'm not gonna admit on here how young, of a young person I've put in detention over the last 30 years, because it's before here. But yeah. Anya, your thoughts on reaching back out to Cliff and saying we can move forward if we can make this one change?
I have absolutely no problem doing that, and I will state all the reasons that we discussed here today. But I do want to bring something up. So because the statute does not have any age specified for extended detention program, nor do our rules, because that never came about. Always, well, I guess we assumed that the age will be the same as who is could be put in the detention, and also considering the age at which OYA could admit a kid. So anyway, so my question is, would it be worth pursuing a change of our admin rule at least?
So you're jumping ahead of me, but you're absolutely spot on that I think this is a conversation that we need to take a look at our administrative rule. And now lay it over with what we know with the developmental approach and probably do an update to an admin rule.
So hopefully we could have this discussion at the YDC meeting in December. That actually it's a segue into why we have this. Because if we at least have some limitations set in the rules, we will probably not receive that application like that and having to deal with it. So anyway, so that's my thoughts. But so I will be responding to Cliff saying that we would not be able to approve this age group, as submitted. So change the application and then we will make a recommendation. On the good, or what's good about the program, you mentioned that they have a great educational component, and with the limited space that they have, they still try to get some things happening, educational opportunities outside of the limited classroom space. They were very good describing the gender specific curricula and services that they have in place. The challenge was the cultural consideration. They don't seem to have much. They promised that they will accommodate to each kid as they come in. But what's a bit concerning is that doesn't seem to be a whole lot of community partnership in place. Not just with DHS, they did not mention a single, unless I missed something, like a community-based organizations that they could rely on to provide any type of services. So that would be my recommendation as well, that they really need to get it, reach outside of the department. It seems that a lot of things are happening within the department, like all the decisions are being made by probation officers, but they, on the positive, they do include families and planning. But since they do serve kids from other counties as well as so Grand Ron tribe is right there, so kids from Grand Ron are likely to end up in, just as likely to end up in Yamhill as they would be in Marion County. So there are still some questions around the cultural considerations and community partnering. So, and I don't know, Lawrence, Kim, Molly, Sam, you want to add anything to it?
No, I think that you're spot on. I was amazed at how they reached out to families. And the only group that was, however, the only community group coming in from the outside was AA. And so I think we gave them some suggestions. They seemed open to the suggestions, but definitely does not they were open to the suggestions. That's what I'm going to say. Lawrence?
Definitely an area that could use some improvement. Like Molly had mentioned, the only group that was coming in was the AA group. They were open to having, you know, volunteers come in and talk, but it would have been a little bit more helpful, I think, on their part if they had made some connections outside in the community. You know, just instead of being just open to people coming in, you know, having made some of those connections and having some resources for the youth that are coming in there from other counties, would have demonstrated just a little bit more prudence on their part. So they can definitely improve in that area. They're willing to, and I hope that they do.
So would it be pretty like accurate summary for me to send an email to Cliff, and of course I'll copy Jessica, who's the director of,
Yes.
what was the agency there? Is it like community justice?
So it's part of the Yamhill County Community Justice Program.
Community justice.
So detention goes to Cliff reports directly to Jessica.
So I'll send an email address to Cliff and Jessica saying that we've reviewed, and although there are some really good positive improvements, but the age 10, 11 will not be approved by the council, and it's not recommended, and there are reasons for it. And we would encourage them to
reach out and continue to reach out.
To local providers. But as far as the age as submitted, it's not going to be recommended for approval by the council. It's really not.
Right. So that part of it's kind of, the other one is a recommendation.
Right.
Does that seem fit for everybody? And the other part in the administrative rules, there's a couple different things. One is I think we also need to create a feedback loop after we approve programs, and kind of, because 6 years is a long time.
Yes.
And lots of information comes out, and that's 3 long sessions of legislature in 6 years. So having a feedback loop is something I think we also probably need to bake into our administrative rules. Okay. So the recommendation with those 2 caveats, do I see some thumbs up? Just kind of general. I see some heads nodding. Perfect. All righty. Yay.
Thank you.
So we have those two items done. And now Anya, do you want to,
What's next?
detention guide, is it detention guidelines? There we go. I have too many things up. Yeah.
Awesome. So, and actually, before we go into the detention guidelines, there's another thing that maybe we could make some adjustments in the guidelines around the restraining chairs. I don't remember the language that we currently have.
It's in there.
It's in there.
Yeah, no, restraint chairs are not a best practice. There,
Right.
it's actually in the guidelines.
Okay, awesome. I just
Yep.
couldn't remember, but we need to probably emphasize it.
We probably need to also look at the extended detention just a tiny bit more and do a best practice in the detention guidelines around extended detention.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
So detention guidelines review and update. Debbie and I and Anya got to participate with the Family Advisory Council with the Oregon Youth Authority. And so they're also joining in, and we had really fun conversations with them. And we are going to postpone the December detention guidelines meeting. Simply because we have too many things going on in the month of December. And between Anya, Joy, and I, we are not available in order to do it justice. So we will have our next meeting in January. That's my update, Anya. Is that good?
Awesome, yes. And again, Debbie, thank you so much for making it possible for us
Very
to
fun.
join the OYA Family Advisory Group. It was very powerful. And we will make sure that their feedback is included in the guidelines.
Yeah. Their feedback was so in line with what everything else has been going on. I just was really pleased that we as professionals aren't really screwing it up. Like we're actually
Moving in the right direction.
yeah, I was very appreciative that
Now, Lawrence, what's your classic state? Lawrence has this way of saying it. How do you say it?
Trending in the right direction.
Trending in the
Yes.
right direction. I just love it. It's just
yeah. I was just really like, okay, I'm not completely off base. So
right.
now we have the grantee. So we have one more thing that we need to talk about, and I'm gonna actually switch the lineup on it, Anya, because I'm gonna have to leave in just a couple minutes because
Okay.
I'm going to the doctor for my knee. But is just an affirmation for the Youth Development Council on our planning for the grant process, for the guidelines for the review and update for the 25-27 guidelines. And Anya, do you want to take, we don't want any changes, is that correct, Anya?
Well, that's why I sent it out to you. So the only change I made on that in the format, I just changed the date, honestly. But I didn't make any changes to the questions. So I don't know if you want to look at them now or you want some time to think about it, but they were sent out to you. Unless something really needs to change, I don't see the reason.
So I'm really biased because I help answer the questions for the county and then I review them. And so they felt really good this last time for consistency, but I need to let you guys ask that. I'm not seeing any like jumping out large questions, which means one of two things. We've all been really busy and we didn't get the opportunity to review it, which is also okay. Or there's not any significant changes. And so what I am gonna ask is that we take a few moments and not a few moments, but why can we pull it up really quick, Anya?
Oh, Joy, is it hard? Sorry.
Can you let me know where the document is, Anya?
That's the one that you sent out as part of
Yes.
Okay.
the updated meeting invite.
Yeah. There we are.
That one. Thank you so much. So if you don't mind just scrolling down like to the next page. See, I changed the date.
Yes, you did.
I did not make any changes here.
These are all statutory
Oh,
and
And I
lead-in.
forgot to change the plans here, the date.
Yeah.
I'll change the date. But again, the statute didn't change, the rules didn't change, expectation didn't change, so everything is here, and I will make a note to change the biennium. Okay. We're good to move down.
Yeah, we're free to, yep. So those are all just the intro pieces of it. And so
Yeah.
there's really the planned elements, and we talked about this some last time, was around the planning process. And we actually did some work on this in partnership with the juvenile directors on statement of LIP6 and county governing bodies approval. So we actually updated this for the 23-25. So I think that would be, I think that's correct now.
Here, remember we changed the age group down to 8. And Kim, those are the kids served in community. This is not nothing to do with detention.
Correct. These are actually free, all involvement with us or limited involvement with the juvenile justice system.
Services programs.
The mandated tool. Evidence-based cultural appropriateness. JCP basic and diversion, and the budget.
And under appendices, just describing who needs to be taking part in the planning process and all of it.
Just helpful tools. They're really helpful tools for people to think about as they create their document. Anybody have thoughts? I'm going to use silence as the opportunity to maybe make this recommendation to the YDC on December 12th, that this is the tool we want to start with, and that so that we can provide counties with some information.
Awesome, thank you. And if you feel bored during the holidays, I want to open this document and study it carefully, and you see something that you would like to either remove or add, feel free to let us know. We still have time until December 12th. Thank you.
I'm going to let you go to the sub awards. I am going to log off so I can go get my knee looked at.
Awesome. Oh, you too. Me too. My knee is bothering me. Sorry about that. So before you leave,
Yes.
one thing. Would you be okay if we cancel the next meeting in December because that's on Christmas Day?
Yes, I would. I think that we should all just celebrate however we want to celebrate with our loved ones, families, and friends as we choose.
Awesome. Well, happy Thanksgiving to you, Molly, and good luck with the doctor.
Yeah.
No meeting on Christmas Day. Meet with whoever you want, but not with us. Awesome, thank you. So Lawrence, do you want to give like a brief update where we are with the awards? Because they haven't been awarded yet.
We're working on that. So at the last meeting, I briefly provided an update on the status of our fiscal year 2021 and 2022 requests for applications, for the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Title II formula grants. I did mention at that time that there were 27 applications in the initial procurement eligibility phase for a total of 6 available grants that we intend to issue. At that time, I also mentioned that we completed the grant evaluation phase and that we had moved into the intent to award phase. So we had met with our procurement specialist, I believe on October 22nd, and she's the single point of contact for the RFA. And a letter was sent out to all applicants with the results demonstrating who was in line to receive funding, from the 6 available awards that we have available. Additionally, I believe I mentioned at that meeting also, further contact would be made to those applicants who we intended on providing an award to, with next steps and requirements needed to receive Title II funding. It's a federal funding source, so there's certain requirements that's attached to that type of grant. We had further meetings with our procurement specialists that Friday on October 25th to further discuss that process of those requirements and to prepare for actual awarding of those grants to the highest scoring applicants. Since that time, we have met with our procurement specialists, with the last meeting taking place just Monday, the 25th of this month. And we are in a position now to send out grant agreements for signatures for potential grantees. Really excited about that. The Youth Development Division will meet with these potential grantees to congratulate them, of course, and also to establish an initial working relationship, just to ensure that everybody's on the same page and that all parties are in agreement to what is expected in terms of data reporting requirements and other questions and or concerns that any one of us may have. So we anticipate executing the grants in early January. We want to do that to align with the quarterly federal reporting guidelines and to finally get these grants out the door so we can start serving Oregon's youth in these areas. So that's all I have. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Anya.
Thank you, Lawrence. Joy, did we get to the bottom of the agenda?
Yeah, we did. That's the last item.
Yeah, if I don't see a to-do list or agenda list, I don't know where we are. So, thank you everyone for being here. Happy holidays. Thanksgiving, and then if I don't see you until next holiday time, happy everything. Enjoy, eat, do what makes you happy. Enjoy safe travels.
Thank you, Anya.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Happy holidays.
Thanks all. Happy
Holidays.
holidays.